Today we're reading about some more Karens and it's going to be so fun. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day today and I hope you're ready for this. As always, if you enjoy, make sure you let me know down below and like and subscribe. And let's get into it. Enjoy, guys. Karen accused me of stealing my own car, tricked a dumb cop into arresting me, and now my car's a wreck because he gave her the keys. I don't really care who believes this, but here's my story. I live in one of those middle of nowhere desert towns where almost everybody knows almost everybody, and it's hot as hell, but dirt cheap to buy a home or land in. And it's not uncommon for old cars to last out here as they almost never rust and people keep fixing them. After high school, I worked my ass off at a local job to get my own place. I ended up buying a small plot of land with a trailer on it off a local guy that decided he was going to move to Texas. And the guy also sold me his Ford Escort prior to that. It was an okay first car, got me around well enough. I still have it too. 10 years have gone by since then, and for a while I spent a lot of my time tinkering with an old 87 Monte Carlo that I bought super cheap as it didn't have an engine or transmission. I love that car as an older cousin of mine had one when I was a kid, and I always wanted one of my own. I spent 2 years fixing up the one I got with some help from friends, and I finished it in 2019. Since the engine was missing, I dropped in a junkyard Chevy 305 V8, and that was connected to a rebuilt 4-speed automatic transmission that had low miles from a totaled car. Then I painted it myself inside a friend's garage with a Harbor Freight sprayer and some GM black single-stage gloss paint, and buffed it to a shine. And I finished it up with some gold Monte Carlo decals and some classic moon rims that I bought from a local junkyard and polished up. I also partially redid the interior by replacing the seats and put in a new custom steering wheel. I'm not really a mechanic, but my friends all helped me, and online how-to videos on my smartphone really helped as well. The car was fun to drive and it looked good, and I kept it in good order. That is until this mess went down. Now, I didn't really trust some of the local law enforcement out here before, and this gave me even more reason not to. A lot of the cops around here are barely qualified for the job. They're practically hired with a handshake and just told to play Doom for training. Granted though, many of them are really nice. The sheriff is even kind of a friend of mine, but he's really one of the only competent ones there. Most of the rest don't even really do their jobs well, especially whenever a new one gets hired on. Like a guy that went out of his way to move to my town just to get to be a cop. In this case, he was the nephew of the sheriff. He even brought his own Crown Vic with a loudspeaker to drive around town in. Let's call this guy NC for nephew cop, since he was the sheriff's nephew. Nephew cop and I didn't know each other personally yet, but I was aware of him. He was dumb as a rock and high on his own ego. He was like Barney Fife and John Cena had an illegitimate son, because he was a tall, strong-looking man that was always giving people creepy looks, and he patrolled on foot up and down Main Street with a clipboard in hand and a big grin on his face. He also liked to publicly flex his muscles in front of people. One Saturday morning, I took my Monte Carlo out to meet a friend, but they ended up bailing because of a last-minute issue with their girlfriend. I thought, meh, no problem, I'll just get some fast food and then go home. I went to the local burger place and I got a meal to go, and as I was walking out of there was a lady outside looking over my car. She was bent over in a very short skirt, and not gonna lie, I enjoyed the view. People would stop here and there to ask me about my car and where I got it. I usually don't mind talking so long as they're polite, though this woman ended up anything but. She was curvy and good looking while wearing a black mini skirt. I'm guessing early to mid 30s or so, not really sure. I asked her if she liked my car. She stood up, took one look at me and snickered. I asked her what was so funny, to get an idea of what I looked like at the time. I was a skinny guy with a scraggly beard and I was wearing a faded AC/DC t-shirt with the sleeves ripped off it, along with some worn out cut off denim shorts and flip-flops. I guess she figured I was poor or something. So she was probably judging my appearance. She looked me up and down in a very obvious way and then said, "There's no way this is your car. You couldn't possibly afford something this nice." Now, I have a tendency to get sarcastic or snide when people make assumptions about me, so I said back, "Oh really, lady? The title's in my name, and these keys right here in my hand say that I'm the owner too." The Karen just glared at me as I put the keys in the lock and I began to open the door. I looked behind her and I noticed a beige 90s Volvo with a missing headlight, and it had out-of-state plates on it parked not too far from me. I put two and two together and I laughed. "Let me guess, lady, that's your car over there." She started to turn beet red. I laughed and said, "Oh, don't be ashamed. Those things aren't lookers, but they'll run forever." I figured this was over, but as I was opening my door, I suddenly felt her nails digging into my shoulder. She was screeching so loud that my ears were hurting, and before I could turn around, she kicked me between my legs from behind with a high-heeled shoe so hard that I collapsed in agony. And true to my luck, NC drove right up because it heard her screeching from down the street during his noon patrol. As soon as NC was out of his car, the Karen ran to him crying and saying that I was a carjacker that was attempting to take her new car. I wasn't looking at either of them as I was on the ground wincing in a fetal position from the pain. The next thing I heard was NC yelling, "Put your hands behind your back." And then I was pinned down by his knee on my spine and I was forcibly cuffed. I tried telling NC that I knew his uncle and I can prove I'm the real owner of the car, but he called me white trash and told me to shut up. Then he picked my keys up off off the ground and actually handed them to the Karen. Then he seemed to do like a hero pose while she gave me a crap-eating grin. No matter what I said, NC wasn't listening to me because he fully believed her. And then I had to see Karen start up my car and drive off with it. My heart sank as I watched it sail down the road with her flipping me off. Then NC took me back to the sheriff's office. I'd hoped his uncle was in, but just my bad luck, he was out to lunch. So NC put me in the cell and told me to keep quiet. I was so pissed, but I knew I wasn't going to make my situation any better, so I waited. And during that time, NC kept giving me looks of contempt. At one time, he walked across the cell with a nightstick, raising it against each bar, like he was trying to intimidate me. At least an hour went by, and the sheriff finally came in through the door, nursing a big gulp, but froze the second he saw me. "OP, what are you doing here?" he asked. I was about to speak when NC jumped in and said, "I caught this lowlife trying to steal a lady's car, so I hauled him in." That's when I finally got my chance to speak and said, "Yeah, only it was my car, the one you know I spent so long fixing up." NC just rolled his eyes and said not to listen to me, but the sheriff silenced him and asked me for my full story. As I tried to tell it, NC was making dismissive looks and kept repeatedly interrupting until the sheriff told him to sit down and shut up. Then when I was finally able to say everything that happened, he was furious. The sheriff laid into NC, who was cowering in a chair like a little boy, and saying that it indeed was my car, and he stupidly gave my keys to a thief that had assaulted me. NC started frantically apologizing and trying to say that he was just trying to help, but the sheriff called him an idiot that just wanted to play hero by saving a damsel in distress, and now the whole department's going to be in hot water for his unlawful arrest and physical assault against me. Then he finally let me out. I got some ice for my crutch and I got taken home. The sheriff and NC went back to the burger restaurant, but the Karen's car was no longer there. They got the CCTV footage from the camera the restaurant had looking outside. It caught everything minus the audio. The Karen came back riding piggyback with a guy on a motorcycle over half an hour from the time she left with my car. She blew him a kiss and then drove off in her Volvo. The sheriff scrambled everyone, even NC, to try and chase her down, but they couldn't find her as she'd already driven out of the county lines. Some phone calls were made to other departments to look for her, and I had to sit at home with an ice pack on my crutch all evening, waiting for news on what happened. A couple of days later, my car was found just a few miles out of town. The Karen had broken all of the windows with what I was assuming was the tire iron, and then put the car in neutral and let it coast down a deep rocky hill, which rolled it into the bottom ditch, which smashed the front end of it and warped the frame. It was completely totaled. I wanted to cry from the sound of metal grinding on rock as the tow truck pulled it back up. NC was there too, and he couldn't even look at me the entire time. My insurance also didn't want to cover the car, so the sheriff's office was made to pay me the value of the Monte Carlo instead, since NC let it happen, which was only about $5,000, though that was honestly close to what I had into it, since I did almost all the work by hand and the help of friends. NC also paid me another $2,000 for my trouble, and said that it was most of his savings. The Karen was caught at a motel estate over sometime later, and arrested for soliciting prostitution and drug possession. Grand theft auto was just one of the many things that she was charged with. I got on a video call just to see her in court and testify. She looked like a wreck the whole time because she knew she was screwed, and it wasn't long before she was pronounced guilty. She got 10 years behind bars without any possibility of parole. As for NC, the sheriff all but begged me not to sue him because he was his nephew, and he promised his sister he'd look out for the guy. I'm not a sue-happy person, so I let it go provided NC actually take some sort of course on how to properly do his job, and so the incident was more or less rug swept, and NC was demoted to sitting at a desk all day answering phones, and they would be docking part of his pay until every penny was paid back. He's still regulated to desk duty half of the time these days, and he still avoids me anytime I'm near him. Arguably he's a better cop now though because he's mellowed out. As for me, it took some time, but with help financially I located a replacement Monte Carlo project car, one with a clean title, and it was the same year too. I salvaged as many parts as I could from my old one and I used it all in the build. The engine and transmission was still good, and somehow so were most of the base parts, and the sheriff personally came by to help my friends and I build the new car in his downtime. It took a year, but now I've got a fresh looking Monte Carlo that looks just like my old one. You'd never know they weren't the same car. I've made sure to have better insurance this time around, and I'll be damned if I ever let a Karen near my car again. Wow, that's so fun to read, and also I feel like we've read it before. It was nearly the end of it before I even realized. I don't know if I've read it on the channel before, but I feel like I have read this before. But yeah, I don't mind reading it again. That was absolutely unbelievable. And yeah, a good way to start the episode. Post number 2 is called Karen doesn't think I'm disabled enough for the handicap spot. I'm on mobile, so I, 24 female, am in the process of finding out if I tore my left ACL or not. During this time, I was given a temporary handicap pass because I'm on crutches and I have a knee brace. This morning I drove to my MRI appointment and I saw an empty handicap spot and I parked there. I shouldn't be walking regularly, but I can at least limp around the car and grab the crutches in the passenger seat. Right before I open the door, some lady approaches me from behind and is all, Miss, you can't park there. I'm not a mean person and I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. So I go, I'm on crutches crutches and I have a pass. Don't worry, this lady with her voice sharpening says, you can clearly walk, and I don't see no crutches. So I open the door and I pull one out. For some context, my crutches are decorated with stickers. The lady, whom will now be known as Karen, scoffed and said, that pretty crap ain't real. That's just a decoration. Move your damn car. She pulls out her phone and I assume she's going to start filming me. I'm not confrontational by any means, but my knee was hurting, I woke up too early, and Karen was probably about to blast me on Facebook, so I responded, film and this crutch will be up your ass. I'm not sure what happened next as I turned around and hobbled off. I was so upset I forgot my other crutch in the car. Oh, that's so awful, OP. It sucks that people can be like this, and they have no reason to be acting like this. It's so frustrating, but it's also sad. Like, if they're treating you like this, they almost definitely do that to a lot of other people. Some people are just walking around being a nuisance. Yeah, sorry you had to deal with that, OP. Just a bit of a warning for the next one, guys. They do talk about a car accident in this, and it's pretty unsettling. So yeah, there'll be timestamps on the video if you want to skip it. Post number 3 is called Karen Demands We Let Her Through a Fatal Crime Scene. Okay, so I'll start by saying that this story is from about 5 years ago, and my therapist mentioned it in passing as it was something I'd spoken with her about years ago regarding my PTSD. I figured it's finally time to post this gem of a woman's story. It's around 11 PM on a Saturday night, and I'm sitting at home just getting ready to go to bed. I'm an on-call tow truck operator, and I figure I'll be going out early the next morning. Right as my head hit the pillow, my Nextel-style two-way radio chirped, and a dispatcher goes, "Hey, OP, are you still awake?" "Yeah, I'm up." "Good, we've got a one-car accident in the next town over. PD wants it expedited, so please hurry, but be safe." 10-4, I'm out the door. After a roughly 20-minute drive, I'm headed out of this small town looking for the accident, and I see it. The coroner and forensics vans were parked in the road, amongst a dozen squad cars. A typical one-car accident has one officer sitting with it for paperwork reasons, with the tow operator. Obviously, I know things just got a lot darker than I'd originally been told. Sparing the gory details, what had happened was 6 kids between 17 and 20 had been in an SUV while driving drunk, and only the driver had a seatbelt on. The vehicle swerved off the road and the driver went to correct. However, 1, he overcorrected, and number 2, the road on that side had about an 8-inch lip, which made it extremely rough of a transition to pull a vehicle back onto the road. As it came back on the road, the driver fishtailed, trying to correct back in the other direction and again overcorrecting. This sent the vehicle rolling down the road in and out of the 4-foot drainage ditch next to the road. All 5 passengers were ejected and they died on the scene. One of the passengers was trapped under the SUV that came to a rest in the ditch on its roof. The other passengers were strewn across the road with sheets over them. I set up my Peterbilt rollback at a 70-degree angle across the 2-lane road, and I start to work with forensics and the coroner to remove the vehicle from the ditch, as well as to preserve as much evidence as possible. No sooner than I get this winch tight on my truck do I hear a frantic beeping of a car horn. I turn around and directly behind me is a woman who looks to be in her early 40s, who's now just holding the horn down, letting it blare non-stop as she's yelling out of her window. Oh god. I ignore her and I turn around to go back to this delicate job I'm in the middle of, wondering how Karen had got past the police roadblock that was roughly a third of a mile up the road at the nearest intersection to keep traffic out of the area. As I'm slowly maneuvering this 8,000-pound vehicle from the roof onto its side, the honking stops. Maybe 8 seconds later, I feel a hand grab my shoulder and attempt to spin me around. I'm 6'3", 280 pounds, so there's absolutely no way this 40-something, 5-ish, 160-pound woman is achieving this goal. I let out a sigh as I stopped winching on the vehicle, and I looked at the sky with my eyes asking every god I can for the strength to not headbutt this biatch. I turn around and attempt to say, "Ma'am, the road is closed due to a fatal accident." Karen cutting me off. "I don't care what you have to say, just get out of my way, I'm late." Me, extremely annoyed now and talking over Karen's continued complaints. "Listen, biatch, 5 people just died here, and there's absolutely no way anybody is driving down this road for hours. I suggest turning around and driving back through the police roadblock you somehow got around now." Karen opening with that line that we've all heard 1,000 times. "Excuse me, I live right here," points back behind her vehicle, "and I have to use this road to get to where I'm going. You will move your truck now or I'm calling the police." By this time, the forensics crew had heard all the yelling over the loudness of my truck idled up, and the PTO engaged and walked over. Forensics crews don't dress like police, especially in the middle of the night on the weekends. They're dressed in plain clothes but carrying a badge on them, and they'll put on a hazmat suit if needed. None were needed on this scene yet, just gloves and such. Karen, "Which one of you is the manager? This man won't move his goddamn truck and let me through. I'm calling the police." Is actually holding the phone to the side of her head and talking to what we would later find out was 911. Forensic officer, "Ma'am, I am the police." Karen, "I don't want to hear any more goddamn excuses. Move the freaking truck now." Clapping between each word. Ugh. Right when you think they can't get any more awful, they do. Me, "You dumb biatch, do your 2 remaining brain cells constantly compete for 3rd place?" Forensics officer, stifling a chuckle. Ma'am, if you don't get in your car and leave this crime scene, you will be arrested. Just as the FO finished saying this, a squad car came screaming down the road from the same direction Karen came from and stopped behind her vehicle. The officer hopped out of his car and the very first words he said were Karen's Miranda rights. Karen screamed, kicked and swore that everybody else should be arrested and even tried to spit on me, which caused her to catch a tampering with evidence charge as we're on an active crime scene. By the time it was all done, her other charges were obstruction, assault on an officer, misuse of 911, and interfering with an investigation. She took a deal that netted her 18 weekends in the county jail. However, I did tow her car as well. Monday morning I met her husband and he couldn't have been more embarrassed as he apologized over and over as he paid me and then inspected the vehicle and signed off that we didn't damage it. The impound cost roughly $600 as it was police initiated, after hours and storage. Charges were $150 impound, $50 after hours, $52 a day storage, and $5 a mile each direction from our office. Our office was roughly 15 to 17 miles away. Oh, that was so awful. I thought I'd read about the worst Karens, but this one was so much worse than the stuff that we've read. Yeah, like this comment says, as a police dispatcher who deals with some degree of a Karen every single day, I'd like for you to know, you are my hero. Also, my heart is with you for the struggles that come from situations like this. Keep taking care of yourself. And OP said, the sheer lack of awareness and main character syndrome that woman displayed still baffles me. I'm doing well with the PTSD from the many accidents of this caliber that I've worked with, but I still can't wrap my head around somebody like this. Thank you for your kind words. Yeah, that was revolting, and more revolting than the stuff that we usually read. Ugh. Once again, I'm sorry you had to deal with that, OP. Post number 4 is called Entitled Karen Pushes a Teenage Girl Trying to Do Her Job. This happened at work today. I work part-time at a popular clothing store in my country. The customers are usually entitled women who come and spend their husband's money, and their whole personality is that they're rich. It's a sort of type of women here. They have those huge plumped up lips from fillers, often a dead giveaway of how they act, and they're so used to people kissing their butts that whenever somebody doesn't, they make a scene. Me and a group of girls were working at the changing rooms, and a procedure we have there is to ask people how many things they're bringing in, and to ask them to press their bag onto a sensor to detect if they have something from the store in their bags. This woman with a biatchy attitude and the already mentioned huge lips just walks by the station and nonchalantly starts heading for the changing rooms. We've all been sick of entitled people the whole day, so one of the girls shouts out to her and the conversation goes as follows. Girl, excuse me ma'am, how many things do you have on you? Entitled Karen, come and count them, in a rude tone. Girl, who is already super annoyed, alright I will. We're all a little flabbergasted by this already, and the girl starts to follow the woman. A few seconds later, the girl comes back all riled up and talks into the walkie-talkie. Can the manager and security guard come to the women's changing room right away? We all stare at her shocked and ask her what happened. She tells us that she came up to her changing room where the woman had already placed her things in, and she was about to head in. The woman pushed her and started cursing her out. She told her she would be calling security, and the woman replied that she will call the manager. The girl answered that there's no need because she'll be calling her. In short, the manager shows up and she tells us that the woman is a friend of the director of the entire store. Mind you, this place is huge and it brings in a lot of money, and that we should let it go as to not cause any problems. We were told that whenever she comes in, we're supposed to ignore the protocol and just let her pass with no questions asked. How ridiculous. In the end, the girl was told to go take a walk and come back in 15 minutes so the woman will finish and leave. No satisfying resolution, but there was nothing we could have done. Yeah, like the top comment says. What the absolute F? Yeah, what? That's so bad. Like, oh no, just ignore it. Just ignore them being a tantrum throwing entitled child. That's a fully grown adult that's acting like this. Embarrassing. Yeah, what? Yeah, let's read one more, guys. Post number 5 is called French Karen is upset that I speak English in England. Accidentally posted this in Entitled Parents, so I'm posting it here instead. Long time lurker, first time poster. I work at a company that has over 300 sites globally. I work in the only plant in the UK. We have 22 people working here. I was asked to join a call with our other European sites, as I also speak German fluently and can understand and speak Italian to a level about the industry I work in. So we have this call and we have English, me, Greek, Turkish, Romanian, Italian, German, Spanish, and French on the meeting. Everyone's plant has management and can all speak English. Italian and German is broken English, hence why it's easier for me to be on it and translate if they struggle understanding anything. So we go about the meeting and German starts talking to me in German. I'm translating and it's going well. We all know each other well, as we often visit each other's plants. Apart from France, they have a new woman, Karen, who keeps on trying to be the center of attention. She's been speaking fluent English all through the call so far. I'm translating for German and Italian. It's going well. Until Karen starts speaking French. I told her I don't know French. It's already confusing enough with 3 languages. The conversation goes as follows. Karen, what do you mean? You're the translator? Me, no, I'm a chemist. I know German German fluently and Italian to a level that it's relevant to this call. Karen, well, why are you making me speak a second language, but learning everybody else's? Me, I'm doing the company a favor, otherwise they'd have to get a translator. Karen, oh, I get it. It's because I'm new and a woman. Me, I'm also a woman. No, I just never learnt French. Karen, oh, so it's a race thing now? Me, you speak English. You don't need to be translated or it to be all about you. Karen hung up. The next day reported me to HR for racism and bullying. I don't think she realized that the call was recorded, so I sent a copy to HR. Unfortunately, at my company, you have a 6-month probation. This happened at 3 months of her being here, and throwing out stupid accusations like this means you're probably not gonna make it. Yeah, well, being an a-hole for no reason. We read about that a lot, don't we, guys? Yeah, that's enough for today. Let's read something that isn't frustrating. My wife. I hate the way I look. I look like a potato. How I see ya. Aww. That's so cute. You're versatile and delicious. This grandpa got a cochlear implant tattoo to match his grandson. Oh, that's also so cute. What a legend. That's so sweet. And obviously, they don't have to do that. Such a thoughtful thing to do. And yet they're always gonna have it. Wow, that's so cool. Finally got his own room. Wow, that's so beautiful. And they look so happy. And sitting on their little rug. Beautiful little kitty cat. Oh, this cat's on the pillow. That's even more cute. Good wholesome memes today. Take a moment to appreciate their sleeping hamster pancakes. No way, they can't be real, can they? Are they real? Why are they so flat? That's amazing and a beautiful place to end today's episode. Thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful time. And if you did and you want to see more episodes like this, make sure you like and subscribe. And the comment of the day today goes to Cats Over Brats. Husband dyed half of my hair today. I'm currently doing black on top and bright red underneath. The red doesn't last as long, so it needed to be dyed again. Hair dye time is always a good time to spend together. Oh, that's a wholesome meme in itself. That's so sweet, and I hope it turned out well. Hell yeah, Cats Over Brats. Thank you for all the comments, guys. I really love reading them. And thank you for all the support. I really appreciate it. And with that being said, make sure you look after yourself and make sure you have a beautiful, amazing rest of your day. And you know what I'm about to say because I say it every single day. Bye!